You're listening to the Nonprofit State of Minds podcast, an Angel Oak creative production.
Hey everybody, David Chatham with Angel Oak Creative for our latest episode of Nonprofit State of Minds, our third season, which is amazing. Just so grateful for people who are willing to listen and put up with my shenanigans. So grateful for that. We've had some really great guests to talk about everything from websites to branding to capital campaigns, marketing, all of those things. And this episode is no exception. We have Colleen Carroll with Double the Donation, and they're a employer matching gifts platform. And I'm sure Colleen will correct me if I said that wrong. Yeah, welcome, Colleen.
Thank you so much. And you got it all right. I guess I would say employer matching gift automation software, but at
Okay.
its core, we're talking employer matching gifts.
Well, great. Well, thank you for being here. Uh, Colleen is the community and events lead at Double the Donation, and just look forward to hearing about the idea of employer matching gifts. Maybe some nonprofits haven't even thought about this. Maybe others are really great at it, and maybe could benefit from a little bit more information about how to just do it better. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about you, Colleen. Just how what's your journey been like to get to the nonprofit space, and why are you doing it?
Absolutely. So, my journey to the nonprofit space started when I was still in school. So, when I was in university, I was doing English and history, and I loved those subjects, but I knew I didn't want to be a professor and I didn't want to be a teacher. And so, I was trying to figure out what I could do, and I was looking for something really meaningful. And so, through a series of kind of unexpected events, I ended up having a number of internships with nonprofits in the fundraising department. And I loved getting to know the nonprofit world and the space and talking with fundraisers, but I knew I wasn't personally a fundraiser. I felt like there was a particular personality and I wasn't quite that. So then after school, I was still interested in the nonprofit world, but again, not quite sure what my space was. And I ended up stumbling into this um, kind of consulting, I started at a marketing agency working with nonprofits, and then now I've transitioned over to this technology side of nonprofits. But at its core, what I'm doing in my daily role is I am talking with nonprofit professionals, talking with fundraisers about employer matching gifts and workplace giving. So I feel like I kind of get to dip my toe into all these different nonprofit worlds and talk about their specific mission and organization. So it's been a really fun journey, and I'm glad to have made it here.
Well, we're glad you're here too. So we need all the talented people we can get into the nonprofit sector. So, well, tell us a little bit about however you want to approach it. A little bit
Yeah.
about double the donation, as well as kind of how that fits into the employer, workplace giving model.
Of course. So, Double the Donation, as I said, is a workplace fundraising automation software. And to break down a little bit of what that means, at its core and where we started off is we were talking about getting more donors to submit their employer matching gift information so nonprofits get more money. How we help with that is we have a tool that can embed into your donation form and connect with your CRM so that when someone is going through the donation process, if they search that they work at Home Depot, at the end of the donation process, it's going to be like, great, you let us know you work for Home Depot. Here's Home Depot's matching gift program. Here's the form you have to fill out. Here's step one. Here's step two.
Okay.
We also do some automated emails with our platforms, following up with people being like, hey, again, you let us know you work for Home Depot. You haven't submitted your gift yet. Do you want to do it? Again, here are the steps. Or maybe you didn't let us know where you work. Do you want to search it up, check to see? So we have our database where we keep all that information about all the employer matching gift programs out there and all the different adjustments and changes that are kind of happening actively in the space. We have a whole database team focused on that. Now, we have started to expand beyond employer matching gifts. Again, that's where we started, but now we're also talking about workplace volunteering and payroll giving and in kind gifts and all sorts of stuff like that,
Wow.
kind of in this broader workplace fundraising scope. But people mostly know us for those employer matches.
So talk about that space a little bit. You know, how many corporations, how many organizations actually offer, or what percentage of those, companies
Yeah.
offer workplace giving options? Is it common out there?
Absolutely. So, over 26 million individuals in the US are eligible for workplace fundraising programs. So, it is a huge
Wow.
number. And it is a lot of those kind of companies that you would expect, the Verizons and the Disneys. But we are seeing a lot of more mid sized companies and even small companies engaging in this space as people are trying to find ways to engage their employees and be kind of more community minded. So, we expect that number to continue to grow. And we're going to do everything we can to encourage companies to continue to grow that number because we see an immense value in these programs. Another way of thinking about it is that 92% of multi-billion-dollar companies have at least one kind of program related to workplace giving. So again, it is a kind of huge space out there.
Do you have any idea of what percentage of nonprofits are kind of aligned with workplace giving, or, what are the trends there? I mean, is it very common? Is it less common? Even if it's anecdotal, if you don't have numbers.
Yeah, I'll say this is an anecdotal one just in my conversations with people. I would say, like, the majority of nonprofits are getting some sort of corporate giving. And
Yeah,
often it's a little bit not something they're being proactive about. And that is totally fine. If that is you, it makes sense. Like corporate giving and employer matching gifts are not going to be the first thing you're focused on as a nonprofit. And frankly, our tech, it's not a CRM. You got to get that figured out first before you kind of come to us.
right.
But kind of we are seeing more and more nonprofits recognizing that there's this pool of money out there. I had one nonprofit professional describe it to me as free money. Like you've already connected with those donors, you already have those relationships, but there's money that is being left on the table. And unfortunately, we do know, speaking of kind of more specific numbers, that $4 to $7 billion in matching gift funds goes unclaimed annually. So these are
Wow.
dollars that have been allocated by companies for employer matching gift programs, but aren't being like taken out in any way.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And the issue with that is not only are we not getting those funds into the hands of nonprofits, but I have a little bit of a concern that if we don't access those funds, companies are going to stop dedicating those funds. They're going to
Right.
be like, ah, no one's using it. Why are we putting all this
Yeah.
money aside? So I feel like it's kind of a big collective nonprofit sector goal to get those numbers down so that we still have that money being allocated.
Talk a little bit about what are the, kind of the why should a nonprofit consider looking into, I guess there's two sides of this, right?
Yeah.
There's corporate side and there's nonprofit side. Why should
Mhm.
a nonprofit organization even look into either working with a double the donation, or, just how can they enhance their workplace, their employer matching gifts or their employer relationships, uh, to raise more money, to get more engagement, all of those things.
Yeah. I'm going to start with going back to the kind of core definition of employer matching gifts. And I'm doing that because that's something I tell people to do all the time, because you would not believe the number of conversations where I get halfway through and I realize we are not talking about the same thing when we're saying
Yeah.
matching gifts. So to start off with, when I talk about matching gifts, I'm talking about the type of philanthropy program where companies match donations their employees make to eligible nonprofits or schools, effectively doubling the contribution to the institution. So your donor gives you $50. They fill out the necessary paperwork with Home Depot. They have a one-to-one matching gift program. You end up with $100 from that $50 donation. So I'd say that is kind of the justification,
Like
my reasoning
jackpot,
about,
right?
yeah, why it's important. It is money that is out there and waiting for you. You've done this work, you've sourced this donor, they're passionate about your mission, they've given to you. They can double their gift without having to open their wallet again, and we're kind of missing out on those funds.
Yeah.
So I would say it's definitely a way of, if you are like getting your fundraising program up and running, it's going, you have your individual donors that are interested, and you're like, how can we raise more this year than we did last year? This would be a great door to open because it actually doesn't require sourcing any new donors. It's just about engaging new donors
Which is
or
really
engaging your current donors.
and that's really I mean, and I could see it exposing you to new donors too, right? I mean, that's really I think one of the biggest challenges that folks come to Angel Oak for is, you know, our current donor base is doing fairly well. We've got a good, average gift size. We got a good, retention rate.
Yeah.
But how do we grow our donor base, right? That's always a
Yeah.
challenge. So how can something like double a donation or the matching gifts, can that help grow the donor base?
I would say yes. So we have a number of like fun statistics related to that. So we see that 71% more donors respond to a fundraising appeal that mention matching gifts. So maybe you have a supporter that hasn't fully engaged, hasn't actually given to you. This might be just the thing that they need to push them over the edge.
Yeah.
And same thing with kind of posting on social media about it. Like this might get someone to be just kind of a follower, a passive follower, to be someone taking action. And 57% of employees say they're more likely to donate when their employer offers a matching gift. So it
Wow.
can be something that inspires people. Other just quick stats I'm going to throw in here is that 84% of survey donors say that they'll donate if they're match eligible. So again, we're seeing that this is really a driving force for encouraging donations. And finally, that 1 in 3 donors will give a larger gift than initially planned when they
Wow.
see that their gift is going to be matched. So again, we're seeing this as a
Wow.
driving force and a real engagement tactic for your current and potential donor base. So I would say the answer is yes. It is definitely a tool to have in your toolkit when you're looking at broadening and strengthening your donor base.
And you talked a little bit about maybe being at a certain place with your fundraising and all, when you engage with workplace matching gifts. But is there a particular type of nonprofit this works best for, or whether it be a particular sector of nonprofits, or whether it be a particular place in their life cycle, or anything like that?
Yeah. So at its core, any nonprofit, well, almost any nonprofit can receive an employer match. So the only kind of limitations we see frequently with companies, and just a quick note here, every company has a different program. And so
Sure.
that's again one of the things our database is helpful is being like, what is this company doing? But most nonprofits are eligible. Sometimes religious organizations and political affiliated organizations are kind of the most frequent ones to be kind of removed from eligibility. So
Right.
if you're a higher ed institution, if you're working with animals, human services, all of those, you are very, very likely going to be eligible for the majority of companies out there.
Yeah.
In terms of size of nonprofit, when I'm talking about with organizations about when it's time to start being a little proactive about these programs and not being as passive and just kind of waiting for some donors to submit,
Right.
it can really depend. You want to have a strong individual donor base because you don't you that's just going to be the people who are eligible. And so if you don't have that individual donor base, it's not really worth your time yet. Like it's time to start focusing on building that base.
Right.
Uh, when it comes to our tool, we do have it accessible to kind of all sizes of nonprofits. We have kind of starter essentials and then also up to enterprise where we can really customize things for you. I would say really, really start focusing on employer matching gifts when you're getting about $1 million through individual contributions every year. Like that's the time where I'm going
Okay.
to say you're missing out if you're not
Yeah.
engaging with this. It is worth bringing it in earlier if you're prepared to do it. But if you're over 1 million of individual contributions, like just think about kind of what this door could open for you.
Is there kind of a common ROI after a certain period of time that a organization should expect from, kind of leaning into the matching gift side, or
Mhm.
does it just vary dramatically?
It can vary dramatically. What I'll say is we see when we're talking about our software pricing is the majority of nonprofits within a single year will have kind of paid for the software that they've purchased because again, this is money that's out there that's getting in the door now for
Sure.
the first time. I'm sure there is a stat, and I don't have it off the top of my head about kind of general engagement, but what
Yeah.
I would expect to see is like a 10 to 15% increase in employer
Yeah.
matching gifts just by putting in a little bit of effort
Yeah.
to this offering.
And talk about if you would, talk a little bit about what's involved. How difficult is it to start something like this, to begin the
Yeah.
process of implementing double the donation, or even just kind of getting engaged with the workplace giving environment?
Sure. So I think the place to start with that is to think about kind of what are the challenges that are preventing you from actually getting the funds today. Like again, these programs are out there. You do not need our tool for you to potentially get money. The issue is that 78% of eligible donors are unaware of the opportunity or the process of how to get the money
Wow.
to you. I know it's a scary number. It's a
Uh,
daunting number, but I also think
It
that
sounds like a communications problem to me, Colleen.
exactly. That's what I'm always telling people. I'm like, that means the challenge is awareness. And
Right.
in case you're curious, like why that number is so high, we see that 81% of companies simply don't include adequate information in accessible places for
Yeah.
employees. It's on page 57 of the handbook. And let's be
Right.
honest, no one goes back to the handbook after the first week
And
unless
it's
they're
in
looking
some
for something.
HR platform, right? That they
Yep.
have to check a box or something, right?
Exactly. Maybe they have a CSR platform they have to log in, and people just don't think about it. When they're donating, they're not thinking about their employer, they're thinking about a
Right.
mission they care about.
Yeah.
So that is the challenge. So when it comes to addressing this, I'll say our tool. Our tool is a really easy thing to turn on. When we're talking about setup with an organization, we can probably get that done within a week and with an hour or two of your team's time to get it set up and automated and just kind of running. And what I mean by that is that's going to mean that maybe we can have the search tool integrated into your donation form, depending on your donation form. If you want to check the integrations, go to our website, really easy to do to see whether we integrate with yours. And then also getting those automated emails set up, branding them to your organization, changing the language to make sense to your mission, getting that set up. Then you can kind of set it and forget it. And that's what a lot of the organizations we work with do. And if that's all your bandwidth is, it's amazing. You're going to get more funds just by turning that on and getting it to go out to your donors. If you're looking to do a little bit more, one of the things I'm always talking about employer matching gifts with people is there's always more you can do. And
Yeah.
that's one of the fun things. And it's one of the things where I'm like, don't feel guilty if you're not doing everything, because there is always going to be more to do. But we can talk about social media posts. We can talk about including it in your appeals, having QR codes on your mailings.
Yeah.
Talking about it at in-person events is huge, getting someone up at the podium talking about it. So there's always more you can do. But if you're just going to start off, maybe it's signing up with double the donation. Maybe it's getting a page on your website that talks about employer matching gifts and gives information so that if someone is ever looking for that information, they have access to it. And I'll just quickly say that if anyone's ever looking for a resource on how to create a dedicated page like that, I have a whole kind of template for people. So don't
Yeah, I was going
hesitate
to
to
ask
reach
you,
out.
you have, maybe some suggested posts or, any of those sorts of kind of.
Oh, yeah, all sorts of things.
Oh, good. Well, we encourage people to use those kinds of resources. And it's like Giving Tuesday, right? Most people don't know that Giving Tuesday has a whole toolbox full of resources that they can use at no cost to help promote their Giving Tuesday, right? So
Exactly.
I think that's great. Well, what somebody gets it set up, they get it, they start to get it running. What are some ways that they, you mentioned social and some other things, but
Mhm.
what are some of the, I think the either the barriers or the challenges for people for adopting it, for people to
Mhm.
see it really start to pay off? Are there
Mhm.
kind of common things that stand in the way?
Sure. I would say there are some common challenges, but it's also altogether possible that a nonprofit would have none of these challenges getting set up. One
Sure.
of the things I hear most often is getting buy-in from other members of the team. If there's
No.
an individual on the fundraising team that is interested in employer matching gifts, at
Mm,
most organizations, it's a singular person that knows
right.
how they work and what they are, and no one else really knows what they are. They may hear matching gift and think it's that like anonymous donor has given $10,000 and we're trying to raise, which is fabulous, but it's not what we're talking about.
Right.
So that can be a challenge because it may mean that they don't get approval to get those automated emails turned on, which have a
Mm.
huge impact on improving the numbers of people that actually submit their gift because people get distracted right after the donation. Maybe their kid runs in screaming and they don't see that confirmation page.
Right.
Those automated emails, maybe a few hours later, maybe a few days later, can be a huge impact. So I would say that's one piece. And that's actually a similar thing for when we're talking about those socials and we're talking about those
Right.
emails and appeal letters is it can be hard to convince your marketing team that has so many things they want to share
Right.
or your fundraising team, so many things they want to share with donors that it's worth it. So I am often talking to people about sharing ROI, talking about again this concept of free money, that this is money you're leaving on the table to advocate. And maybe all you get that first time is a PS on a letter with a link, or if it's an email or a QR code, if it's a physical mailing that can be huge for kind of getting your foot in the door to
Yeah.
get more engagement.
What about on the employer side? I mean, if I don't know if you work in that area or not, but what if the employer isn't offering matching gifts? Is there a way to kind of help them to see the value of having that kind of strategy as part of their, workforce?
Yes, absolutely. So we historically have not had a ton of like one-to-one conversations with companies, but we have
Right.
a lot of resources, and that actually might be changing. We're working at being more involved in the space, but we've had for a long time a lot of resources with to help nonprofits connect with their corporate partners or a corporate partner. So we
Yeah.
have a ton of resources about how to set up an employer matching gift program. Like here's step one, here's step two. We also talk a lot about with nonprofits, there's what we call the one-off matching gift. So maybe a company doesn't generally have a match, but they really like your nonprofit, they've volunteered with you, and they're up for having a program where just for your nonprofit, they will match their employees' gifts.
Yeah.
We can get that into our system so that in that search tool, just on your nonprofit page, it'll pop up being like, your employer is willing to match this gift. Here's the process for doing it. So there are absolutely ways to kind of build engagement with companies that don't have programs. And I really encourage it as a conversation to have as you're looking at corporate partnerships, as you're talking to a company that maybe is local to your area, being like, here's a way you can get involved that's going to be pretty low stress for you, but high impact for your team and in terms of engagement.
Yeah. And as far as managing double the donation or any other platform for that matter, I don't even know if there is another platform, but what's involved? Is there a lot of kind of upkeep or maintenance or anything in having to manage the software or anything? Is
Yeah.
it pretty self self-running?
Once again, it really depends on the organization and what you want to do with it. For the majority of people and organizations, it is self-running. You get those automated emails turned on, you add it to your search tool, you step away. A ton of our clients log into what we call our dashboard, where you can see the metrics and information once a month, once a quarter, sometimes once a year. Now, there's more you can do. So again, for those interested, we have that dashboard. You can go in and you can look at the top donations that are eligible for a gift but have not been submitted. So maybe that's $1,000 gift. Maybe that's a $10,000 gift that you want to do some personal stewardship to. You're not going to leave it just to the automated emails and hope for the best. You're going to give that donor a call. So there's a ton more you can do. You can also look at your email deliverability and adjust the email language, maybe change the header, maybe change it like every quarter. I have had nonprofits talk about doing that. So there's a ton you can do, but if all you can do is set it and forget it, again, I would expect that you're going to see the funds go up.
If someone on their website, I know you mentioned maybe a landing page specific
Yeah.
to workplace giving, which I think is a great idea. Within their donation form, is it possible or is it helpful to ask if their employer does workplace matching, or how can you start to kind of capture that or feed it into your CRM? Is there a best practice for that?
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, we really encourage people to ask for employer information on your donation form. You can do that with double the donation, but you can also do that just with an empty box like you do for first name, last name. My things that I'm going to encourage you with that is make sure you let people know why you're asking for their
Yeah.
employer information. Most people are not in this nonprofit fundraising world with us. They're not thinking through why we might be asking for that. They may be a little creeped out. Why
I'm
do you
thinking
need
you're
to
going
know
to
where
show
I
up at
work?
work and ask for money.
Exactly. Exactly. And so we want to say something along the lines of like, let us know where you work so we can check your eligibility for an employer match. We
Right.
have all sorts of examples of language and you can shorten it and make it much prettier than that. But at its core, you want to let people know.
Pretty bad. That's
Um,
pretty good. Definitely.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, we'll take it. And I know changing your donation form and adding anything can be a little scary. So one thing I'll say is we suggest making that optional. If someone doesn't want to let you know where they work and they
Right.
still want to donate, please, by all means, donate. So make that optional. And the thing I'll say is we see with our search tool, which is just the data we have, that 73% of donors will in fact fill that out if given the
Wow.
opportunity. So you're going to
Yeah.
get that information, and that's super helpful because people are always changing jobs and it can be really hard to keep up to date on that data in your
Yeah.
CRM. And so this is a way with every time they make a gift, they're encouraged to remind you where they work. And if they change jobs, you'll have a chance at catching that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good, that makes, especially today with the way that people are constantly job hopping
Mhm.
or doing their side hustles and all of those things. So
Yeah.
uh, can you give an example, maybe a little kind of a case study, just a brief example of maybe how an average nonprofit that you've worked with has implemented this and maybe what they've seen the results of?
Sure. So I'm gonna use a kind of generic nonprofit, but because it's a journey that I hear a lot. So maybe you get the search tool, you put it on your donation form, you get those automated emails set up, but you want to do more. What else are people going to do? They're going to make that landing page that we talked about before. If you're talking about employer matching gifts in a social media post, you do not want to include every little nitty gritty detail about what people need to know about it. So have a page to send people to that explains what matching gift programs are. Again, never assume that someone knows what you're talking about. Explain what they are, how they work, and how it's going to impact your mission, what you can do with those extra dollars. If you have a search tool, great, put it on that page as well. If you don't have a search tool, or you're not ready for that step, I've seen a lot of organizations. An example that comes to mind is the University of Georgia, where on that page they have our search tool, but then below it they've identified the top employers of their
Huh.
donors. I forgot that word for a second. That was
Right.
crazy. So I think in their example, it's like Coca-Cola, Delta, like some others, and they have drop downs. So you hit Delta and it drops down and it goes, here's your program. So again, if you're not ready for the search tool, look at where your donors work, identify the top 10, 20, and put in a little bit of research to what those programs are and just
Yeah.
have that accessible to people. So I'd say that's an early start of the journey for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, I'm trying to think about our clients and, when we build websites and things like that, when we're building out, helping them build out their donation form, I'm betting that employer probably isn't the first, one of the things that we make a priority to make sure that we're including. So I think that's for us a good reminder that we should be thinking about that as a best practice for our for our clients, and
Yeah.
what that looks like. What are the biggest questions? What are the most often asked questions that you get about workplace giving?
Mm.
What are some of those things that come up?
Ooh, this is good. Okay. Um, One thing I get is like, what if we have a ton of retirees? Like, is this worth
Oh,
even doing? That's an interesting one. A lot of companies have programs for retirees. We are seeing a little bit of a trend of less companies doing that or some companies removing those programs. But I will
yeah.
say they still absolutely exist. So I would say it's still worth it to talk about it. If someone types in that field retiree, like talk to them about it. Where did you work? Do you maybe have that program? Use it as a touch point. Again, that's a huge thing. I'm like, even if someone doesn't have an employer matching gift program, but they respond to that email in some way, great. Now you have a conversation with a donor. Let's talk to them about other ways that they can engage, or maybe they want to volunteer, or maybe they want to advocate to their company to get a program set up, type of thing. So I'd say that's a really common question. If I'm thinking about other questions, it's like who on the team normally owns this at a
Oh,
nonprofit?
yeah.
Like whose
No,
job
that's
is
a
this?
good question, right?
Yeah, the answer is there is, I would say, pretty much no standard practice in terms of who owns this. A lot of time it's someone involved with individual giving, annual giving, that kind of world. Sometimes it's a marketing team member that's most passionate about it. Other times it's a gift processing team member. We
Mm.
haven't really touched on that because, again, I know we're a little focused on marketing here, but
No, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, gift processing is huge. When you're getting those gifts, if you're getting it from a third-party platform like Benevity or Cybergrants, which are one of those corporate social responsibility platforms that companies have, and often the gifts flow through, you're doing a lot of sleuthing to try to figure out where that gift goes, because often it's a bulk number of
Mm.
$1,000, and maybe that's 5 different matches in there, and you have to find it. So our tool can really help with that, with some of the
Mm.
sleuthing of figuring out where those gifts go. So again, sometimes it's the gift processors that are most passionate about it. In an ideal world,
So
everyone
anybody
thinks
whose
it.
job is made easier, like,
Exactly. Exactly. In an ideal world, this is something that touches a lot of different members of the organization. I would
yeah.
say, like, maybe the person that's logging into the account the most is the active fundraiser, the person trying to get more funds in the door, but they're having conversations with their marketing team, talking about how we can advocate it, how we can include this, how we can do a post Giving Tuesday post, being like, great, you gave on Giving Tuesday, now get your gift matched type
Yeah.
thing. And then also talking with the processing team, figuring out how it can be helpful, what information they can get from the Double the Donation platform. So I would say those are the two most common questions I hear.
Yeah, that's interesting. 'Cause I mean, one of the things we talk a lot about in terms of fundraising communications is really about segmenting your audiences, right? And
Mhm.
speaking very directly to their interests, their particular situation. So this is just another example of where there's an opportunity to segment and, really communicate clearly that here's the opportunity you have to double your impact, right? And,
Exactly.
through your employer. So I mean, I think for us, the value there is very evident in terms of, being able to speak to them directly about how they can make a bigger impact. And I mean, I don't know too many donors who don't, who wouldn't say, if I make $100 donation and I can double that, why not, right? I
Exactly.
mean, it's just kind of a no-brainer in most cases that,
Mhm.
especially if they only have to click that, one extra step, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
make it happen. Or I guess technically they don't even have to do anything except make the donation. It's the platform that does the work, right? I mean, is that
So it depends on the company.
okay?
Sometimes there's a form to fill out.
Okay.
Sometimes all you have to do is say like, yes, this I did it. So again, that's what our tool is helpful for, that we've
Gotcha.
figured out that information. So we're like, click here and here's what you need to
Wow.
do. Um, Ideally, it's going to be as quick and easy and seamless as possible. That is one of our goals here at Double the Donation, to encourage that. So we are not directly involved with any of the donations actually changing
Sure.
hands. So we don't have, again, that information exactly to help you with that Benevity report. But we do have a program that we're rolling out that we're hoping will kind of gain traction in years to come, that we call auto submission, that
Hmm.
does do it in a one click. So all the donor has to do is say, yes, that's me, and I want to get it matched. And we have those relationships with those third party platforms. We've integrated with them. We can kind of get the ball rolling for them. So we have that launched with a few of the smaller platforms out there, but hopefully we're continuing to have those conversations, and we're going to be able to get that involved with the larger platforms to help with that data management and to help make it easier for donors to make their gift matched.
Yeah. Anything that takes the friction out of the
Exactly.
is a good thing. Well, good. Well, talk, I guess, as we kind of wrap up here, talk a little bit about, if someone's interested in this, what's kind of the first step or two that they need to take to move towards a more effective uh, donor matching workplace matching program?
Perfect. So I have a checklist that I like to walk through with nonprofits to evaluate your current program and to kind of identify gaps to potentially fill in. First thing I would ask is, do you collect that employment information on your donation form?
Mm,
If not, consider how you can,
yeah.
whether that's getting involved with our team or whether it's just adding a field on your form. I would say that's like a step one. Then the other thing is, can donors check their eligibility on your donation form or confirmation page? Again, we don't want, I see a lot, and it's okay, but I see a lot nonprofits being like, check if you're eligible, talk to your HR team. None of us want to do that. We don't
Right.
want to go to HR. We don't want to send an email. We don't want to figure this out
As
ourselves.
great as HR is, it's not the
Yeah,
place most people want to spend their time.
no. And again, you're giving a gift. You're like I have just the amount of time in my brain to just put in my credit card information and walk
Right.
away. I don't have time for this extra. So
Yep.
anything you can do to help them with that process, whether again it's using a search tool or it is searching your 10 most common employers of your donors and putting it in. Then, do you send at least one targeted match and gift reminder following a donation? I have
Mm,
a stat on that that I'll try to come up with in a second, but essentially, it's huge, that follow-up. Again, donors get distracted. Donors forget. They don't read that confirmation page. They just hit submit and they walk away.
yeah.
Sending out a singular email will increase your employer matches that you received because you'll remind the donor. And one thing you mentioned earlier about like segmentation and personalization, if possible, I love it when those emails say like, "Hey, Dawn, you gave a $150 gift and on this date, and we think you work at Walmart. Do you want to see if that's eligible to be matched?" Like showing that we are talking to an individual donor about a
Yeah.
particular gift.
Yeah.
And so the other thing with segmentation is you're going to want a different email if possible for someone that you know is likely eligible, for someone who you don't even know where they work. We want to have a slightly different email there. So I would say those are my like kind of 3 high priority items to consider, but I have some lower priority items to add to that list as well. Do you separate reminder emails for donors you know are eligible and donors of unknown eligibility? Again, I just brought that up. Do you send a second matching gift reminder to all eligible donors? We see that
Yeah.
is a huge thing, an uptick if you send that second one. And it feels like we're annoying people, but in reality, again, people are already passionate about their mission, your
Well,
mission.
even if you have a 50% open rate, right, it still means that only half the people who are receiving it,
Exactly.
the first time. So
Exactly.
a little repetition is not bad in my experience. So
Good. Glad to hear it because that's definitely what we encourage. Other thing is, again, having that page on your website that may be wrapped up in your Ways to Give page, may be an individual page of its own. Do you regularly mention matching gifts and fundraising appeals? Again, no one else thinks about it but us, so bringing it up when you can. And then do your marketing materials clarify what matching gifts are? Do you actually explain to people what these are? So those are the core things that I'm like, if you're going to take away just a few things to check over and to think about for your organization, I would say that's the list to review.
have there been any studies that show that people who give through workplace giving give more? Is there any indication of that, I wonder?
Yeah, we have that stat that let me pull it up here on my list of numbers I wrote down for
You're good.
this. But we have that 1 in 3 donors, according to Big Give Research Initiative, will give a larger donation than originally planned if it's offered. And that
Wow.
average donation tends to increase by 51%, according to TechSoup.
Wow. So, I mean,
So
that's huge, right? I mean, if
yeah,
your average gift size is $250 or something, right? Or a couple of $100 even that, that I think, you know, getting an additional 50% of that every year, maybe, or, even more than that. So, I mean,
for essentially no further work. Like again, if you just have it on your donation confirmation page, like check, you're not really doing anything active and you're getting twice as much.
yeah. Well, we haven't asked the inevitable question of what's all this cost. So is there a way that you can kind of share what somebody might expect to pay for this or how they might pay for this?
Sure. So we do it based on an annual fee. It doesn't really have to do with kind of um, like the amount that you're actually seeing go through the
Right.
platform. And we base that on your organization and your needs and how many individual gifts you're already getting. So again, it's going to be accessible for a very small amount of money for our smaller nonprofits and for a bigger chunk of money for our enterprise. So what I really encourage, and I know this seems a little bit like I'm evading the question, but I really encourage just talking with our team and letting them know your bandwidth and your what you're fundraising and kind of hearing and letting our team know what you know, and then we can let you know what that's going to cost for your
Sure.
organization.
Sure. So how can people find out more about Double the Donation and maybe get in touch with you if that's something you would like them to do?
Sure. So doublethedonation.com is where you want to go for all the
Call it what
information.
it is. Yep. I love it.
Exactly. You're gonna be able to sign up for time with our team to discuss, as well as we have a ton of webinars always happening and resources. And I actually am involved with running our virtual conference series. We're having another one in October, so
Hmm.
definitely kind of check that out. Also, double the donation on LinkedIn will be a helpful resource for you for keeping up to date on those events that are kind of constantly getting added to the calendar. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach me on LinkedIn, just Colleen Carroll. As we discussed earlier, David, it's a lot of double letters. So it's COLLEEN CARROLL. Find me on LinkedIn, reach out, happy to connect. And then I'll probably at the get go be like, so happy to connect. Here are a ton of resources. I run a discussion group series for nonprofits on
Okay.
workplace fundraising and employer matches. So there's kind of always more out there. So get in touch. Let us know what you're looking for. We also have blog posts, and I'll be sure to get the resources over to you.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing about double the donation and workplace giving. And I would encourage people to learn more. It sounds like there's a lot of money being left on the table. I think you said how much? What
Four
was
to
it?
seven
Four to
billion.
$7 billion. So everybody should get you some of that money, and be sure to check out Double a Donation to get those resources. I think even if it's just kind of education, right, to learn
Yeah.
more about it, I think that has a great value. Thank you for all you're doing to help our nonprofits be more successful. Thank you, everyone, for listening today to our podcast. If you're listening, you obviously found us, so encourage you to check out our previous episodes. And if you know someone who would make a good guest, we always welcome some recommendations there. So, Colleen, thank you so much for your time and your information, and we hope people will figure out how to double the donation.
Absolutely, David. Thank you for your time, and thank you to everyone who listened.